Welcome back to another episode of Boom or Bust, your home for NFL Draft Talk. I'm your host, Terry, and today doing the Super Bowl edition of the Real Grade as we get ready to kick off the Super Bowl, the LA Rams versus the New England Patriots, a special little edition of the Real Grade where I look back 3 years at the 2016 draft and give it a real grade. So, for those who are first time tuning in, as I say in my mini draft philosophies, one of the things that I go by is that it takes at least 3 years to not only judge a player, but also a class. Now, some people take a little longer than that, but 3 years, 3 seasons is a pretty good amount of time where you can look at what the class has become, because we know they like to do it on the first night. They like to do it in the first round. Let's give a grade. You have no idea. You have no idea what that is going to turn out. Just skill wise, attitude wise, scheme fit wise, you don't know. So you got to give it time. So yeah, that's what we do with the real grade. So we're going to look at the 2 Super Bowl teams today. And I would say that to get to a Super Bowl, you got to have a fairly good draft class, a couple good draft classes, because there can be times where you get big free agents and trades and whatnot and kind of put together a team. But more times than not, they're going to be big players on your roster that had to be homegrown because you just can't pay for that many talented players. So let's look at what we got. Let's start off with the LA Rams. So the LA Rams, they got 6 picks. We're going to go down the list. You got Jared Goff, number 1. Of course, still with the team and starting. You got 4th round Tyler Higbee, tight ends. He is starting for the team. You got Pharaoh Cooper, who is no longer with the team, was with him up until this year, is now with the Cardinals, I believe. Then you got Tamark Hemingway. I always had trouble saying his name. But 6th round pick, tight end, and he is no longer with the team. But he recently this year was on the Broncos. Didn't start or anything, but kind of a roster player, but still in the league. You got Josh Forrest out of Kentucky, who is no longer in the league. And then you got Mike Thomas, 6th round receiver out of Southern Mississippi, who also is still on the team, I believe. Sorry, checking that. Yep, so he's still on the team. Again, not a starter or anything, but still on the team. So, looking at the LA Rams, you got 6 picks. As you might remember, they gave up a lot to go up and get Goff. So, not a lot of picks in this draft. Only 1 in the first 3 rounds. But that one you got to hit on is the number 1 pick. I could sit here for an hour and talk how stupid people were talking about Jared Goff is a bust after the first year, but I'm not going to do that. I will just say this: the 3-year rule makes sense, and this is a prime example why. Because people wanted to talk about what Goff was after 7 games his rookie season, and what he could do based off what was around him and the coaches and the situation he was in. People put too much emphasis on the players and don't realize football is all about the context. And so now we see what Jared Goff is now. But you hit with that pick. Then Tyler Higbee, you got a starter in the 4th round. Pharaoh Cooper was a starter early on because they didn't have a lot of talent. But of course they got better players. So he's no longer with the team, but still in the league. So, again, 3 people still on the team. 2 of them are starters. 1 starter you got in the 4th round. You got a 6th round pick that's still in the league. Out of the 3 that's no longer with the team, you got 2 that are still in the league. And the only one that's out of the league is a 6th round pick. So really, low risk here when you got 4th and 6th round picks. Missing on those don't hurt you as much. Even if you have a smaller draft, it's just not a lot of capital. So really all the emphasis is hitting that number 1 pick, which they did. And then Tyler Higbee, I think, is a nice bonus too as well. So, but you can't give this too much credit because again, you don't have a lot of hits in here, but I think for what they did was pretty solid. So I'm going to give this a C+. Now, moving on to the New England Patriots. And I'll say this, without even looking, I could tell you every year the Patriots really draft well. And you see it when you go back and do these real grades, because it's not just a function of how many stars do you have. It's a function of where did you hit? You know, did you hit in the later rounds? Are you picking guys that are still in the league? All these different things. And so we look at it. No first round pick. You start off with the second round pick, Cyrus Jones, who I had high hopes for. From what I understand, it was a attitude, mental type thing with him that didn't work out. But he's no longer with the Patriots. He's now on the Baltimore Ravens, so he's still in the league. But he never really cracked the starting lineup and did anything for the Patriots that you expected him to. So that's a big miss. But then you got Joe Thuney out of North Carolina State, who has started every single game since he's been drafted. So yes, he's a guard, but still a starter in the third round that hasn't missed a game. That's a huge win. Jacoby Brissett, most of us know, is on the Colts. End up playing when Andrew Luck went down and showed that he could be a quality starter with the tools around him. And so even though he's not on the team, really good player that you picked up. You got Vincent Valentine, who is no longer with the team but still in the league. He was with the team for a few years. But recently ended up joining the Cardinals, I believe. Yep. And so still in the league though. Not a big time starter, but still in the league. You got Malcolm Mitchell out of Georgia, who, I believe is no longer in the league. Yeah, he had that 1 year, then he was done. So not in the league. Fourth round pick. Fourth rounds are valuable. So that's one that kind of hurts. You got, I can't say this dude's name, but Camus Hill. I'm going to just say Hill. So interestingly enough, Camus Hill was waived by the Patriots at the end of training camp, so he didn't make the team. Got picked up by the Eagles and was a starter this year because they had some injuries in the linebacker corps. So started a lot of games for the Eagles. And again, a 6th round pick that you could get quality starts out of, that's a big thing, even though he wasn't with your team. He was a starter. But speaking of starters, you got Eldon Roberts, linebacker out of Houston, in the 6th round, who has been a starter for the last few years for the Patriots. So one of your starting linebackers in the 6th round, that's pretty big. Then you got Ted Karras, guard out of Illinois, who is still with the Patriots, hasn't become a full-time starter, but has done spot duty here and there. You know how the Patriots like to mix it up. So still, again, a 6th round pick that's still on your team and contributing. So overall, when you look at it, you got 9 picks. Out of the 9 picks, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people no longer with the team. And out of the 6, you got 2 that are no longer in the league. And the 2 that aren't in the league was 2 receivers. One's a 4th round pick, one's a 7th round pick. So the 7th round pick's a little bit of a wash. That 4th round pick, that kind of hurts though. We'll give you that. And then out of the rest of the 6 that are no longer with the team, you got people that are still playing in the league and some people that are starting in the league. So you get a little bit of boost there that, you know, you're not drafting guys that just dropped out of the league. So there's that. But out of 9 picks to only retain 3, that's kind of tough. But the 3 you retain, you got, again, a guy that has been a perennial starter for you. You got a linebacker that's been a 2-year starter for you from the 6th round. And you got a contributing backup guard. So not the best, but definitely not terrible at all. You definitely want to retain more picks, but it's the Patriots. We know they get rid of guys quick if they're not with the program. So a little bit of more complicated draft to calculate. But look, you got no 1st round pick. You missed on Cyrus, didn't really get much for him. That kind of hurts. You hit on the 3rd round pick, but it's a guard. You hit on the 6th round linebacker. That's pretty big. I think I would give this draft a C. I would give this a C. So, kind of not making my point at all. We're looking at the two Super Bowl teams, both with grades under B, but, don't be extremists. Some people live in 0 to 100. It's got to be an A or F type deal. If it's not an A, it sucks. That's not true. Every draft is not going to be an A. That's just not going to happen. And so you got to realize that having a solid draft most years is just as good as having a really good draft one year. And so making sure that you get quality players out of each draft is a big thing. And so even if you're the Rams who has a small 6-pick draft, or if you're the Patriots who has a large 9-pick draft class, you want to make sure you're pulling quality players out of it. That's really what you want. And having those many picks allows you to take more swings at people. But that doesn't always guarantee you're going to have more players. But you have all those picks so you can get a 6th-round linebacker that can start. And maybe in a different world, you would have had Kamul Hill also a star. You had 2 starting 6th-round linebackers, but he's starting for the Eagles. So, I can't give those super high picks or super high grades, but I definitely respect both of those drafts. So, anyway, there we go. That's it for the Super Bowl edition of The Real Grade. Go down to the comment section. Tell me your thoughts on those 2 draft classes, your thoughts on the upcoming Super Bowl, or thoughts on your team's NFL draft class from 3 years ago and kind of how it panned out if you want to give them a grade. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.